Chapter number 18, Dams. Aims. Since the very purpose of engineering geology is to highlight the role of geology in civil engineering considerations such as dams, this chapter aims at giving details of case histories of dam failures due to geological defects in different countries, role of the geology insight in selecting a particular design of dam, selected case histories of few important dams of India along with necessary geological details. Introduction. In the chapter on groundwater, chapter number 11, it has been studied the enormous requirements of water for irrigation industries, power generation, construction activities, domestic and other purposes are met either by surface water resources like tanks, lakes and rivers or by underground water resources. Dams are the costliest multi-purpose civil engineering constructions that deliver beneficial results for a long time to mankind. This aspect might have prompted late Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to admire them as modern temples. Importance of geology in dam construction. To impress upon the reader the importance of geology in dam construction, or rather in the selection of dam sites, it will be highly appropriate to give a brief account of case histories of failures of some specific dams. There are cases of failures are due to any technical lapses but exclusively due to adverse geological conditions of concerned sites. The analysis of causes of dam failures have indicated that first, the provision of inadequate spillway capacity, and second, defective foundation bed condition are responsible for the most of the recorded failures. Since some of these failures have happened in technically advanced nations like USA, Germany and Italy, the study will underline the significance of geology in such cases. It is proper and necessary to state again in this context that geological investigation at a site will simply bring out the effects and geological problems or advantages, if any, and their magnitude. This provides a scope to take necessary precautions to counter the geological drawbacks and ensure dam safety. Geological consideration in the selection of dam site. In a way, the success of dam is not only related to its own safety and stability but also to success of associated reservoirs. In other words, on construction, if a dam stands firmly but if its reservoirs leaks profusely, as in the case of Cedar Lake Dam or Malpasset, then such a dam is to be treated only as a failure because the purpose for which it was constructed has not been served. Careful geological bring out the inherent advantages or disadvantages of a site, and such studies go a long way either in reducing or in increasing the cost of a dam considerably. The important geological requirements which should be considered in the selection of a dam site are as follows. First, narrow river valley. Second, occurrence of the bedrock at a shallow depth. Third, competent rocks to offer a stable foundation. Fourth, proper geological structures. Narrow river valley. At the proposed dam site, if the river valley is narrow, only a small dam is required, which means the cost of construction will be less. On the other hand, if the valley is wide, a bigger dam is necessary, which means the construction cost will be very high. This is residual soil, this is river, this is talus, this is rock. This is some defective narrow river valleys. This is rock, this is alluvium, this is glacier marine, this is alluvium, this is river, this is block, this is river, this is fractures in rock bulging, this is rock, this is river, this is rock, this is buried channel cut in the rock, buried channel cut in rock, some defective narrow river valleys. Therefore, it is preferable from the economic point of view to select such a site along the river valley which has the least area cross section, that is the narrowest part of river. A few defects are as follows. Deceptive narrowing of a valley due to occurrence of thick superficial deposits such as residual soils and talus, and in recently glacier regions, moraine, boulder clay, sand, gravel and river alluvial, which have been partly eroded by the present river. And fourth one is the unsuitability of rocks in some places due to presence of soluble materials like gypsum, or due to faulting, that is when rock flows along a fault which may be concealed beneath sediments. Bedrock at shallow depths. To ensure its safety and suitability, a dam has to necessarily rest on physically very strong and structurally very stable rocks, that is bedrocks. If such competent bedrock occur near the surface or at shallow depths, the foundation cost of the dam will naturally be less. The thickness of sediments or loose overburden along the river valley depends on the nature and stage of development of the river. It has already been pointed out that because the river mainly causes erosion in the initial and young stages due to steep surface gradient, there may not be any significant loose overburden in any such places. The general occurrence of material like clay, silt, sand, and gravel along the river bed naturally makes it difficult to assess the thickness of loose overburden by mere superficial studies. However, in some places, particularly in glacier regions, the occurrence of buried river valleys may pose unexpected problem. A buried river valley which occurs in a river bed is generally deep and composed of loose drift with highly porous and permeable material. Like buried river valleys, occurrence of huge boulders in glaciated regions may also create unanticipated difficulty during the construction of dam. If the thickness of the loose overburden is negligible, the country rocks may be found to occur exposed frequently along the river valley. Also, the mere presence of few outcrops of country rocks within the river bed does not necessarily indicate the thickness of the overburden is negligible all over the floor and abutments of the valley. The converse may not be true. If the thickness of the loose overburden then is negligible. Also, the presence of few outcrops of country rocks within the river bed does not necessarily indicate the thickness of the overburden is negligible all over the floor and abutments of the valley. Competent rocks for safety foundation. If igneous rocks occurs at selected dam site, they will offer a safe basis, and weak sedimentary rocks, particularly shales, poorly cemented sandstones, and cavernous limestone, shall naturally be undesirable to serve as foundation rocks. Though igneous rocks and their metamorphic equivalents collectively account for 95% of rocks of the crust, they occupy only 30% of the earth's surface, while the others, that is sedimentary rocks and metamorphic equivalents, occupy 70% of the earth's surface. The suitability or otherwise of a site to serve as a foundation for major dams depend on factors such as: first, the existing rock type at dam site; second, extent of weathering it has undergone. But now, to meet requirements of the contest, the relevant details are repeated in a concise manner. Commencing details the suitability of the existing rock types at dam site. Suitability of igneous rocks. Among the rock types, the occurrence of massive plutonic and hyperbyzal igneous rocks is the most desirable at the dam site because they are very strong and durable due to their dense character, interlocking texture, hard silicated mineral composition, occurrence of negligible porosity and permeability, absence of any inherent weakness like bedding, foliation, and lineation resistant to weathering, and their tendency to occur over wide areas. However, it should be remembered that massive basalts, which are fine grained, are one of the toughest rocks in nature. Adverse effects will be noticed in basalts only when they are highly vesicular and permeable. Suitability of sedimentary rocks. In the case of sedimentary rocks, the bedding and its orientation, thickness of beds, nature and extent of compaction and cementation, grain size, leaching of soluble matter, porosity and permeability, acidity, geological structure and composition of constituents, that is sediments, cementing material, etc., influence the strength and durability of different sedimentary rocks. All these details have been discussed already under sedimentary rocks. Based on aforementioned details, it may be said that shales are not only inherent incompetent but also form slippery bases. Therefore, they are most undesirable at dam sites. Alternating soft and hard rocks of small thickness are undesirable. Suitability of metamorphic rocks. Among the metamorphic rocks, gneisses are generally competent like granites unless they possess a very high degree of foliation and are rich accompanied by mica-like minerals. Schists are undesirable because first their constituent minerals are mainly sought and possess a very well developed cleavage, and second, schistose structure results because of the excellent foliation of minerals present in the rock. Then conidolites, which are feldspar rich, are to some extent heterogeneous in terms of their mineral composition. After learning the suitability of occurrence of different varieties of common rocks and dam sites, it should be remembered that all types of rocks exhibit within themselves some variation from specimen to specimen, from place to place in chemical and mineral composition, both qualitatively and quantitatively. In this contested discussion of competence of rocks and dam sites, it is also necessary to recollect that the competence of the site rocks can be improved to reasonable extent by adopting suitable measures such as grouting or replacement of loose, that is weak or fractured portions of rock by good concrete, that is plugging. The question of lack of competence or strength of these roads therefore will normally not arise unless they have other serious drawbacks. Influence of weathering. Under weathering, it has already been made clear that all rock types are adversely affected by weathering in terms of strength, color, appearance, durability, etc. Effect of occurrence of intrusions. Black diorites and white quartz veins occur frequently as intrusives in country rocks. Of these, diorites are usually of effect of occurrence of intrusions. Of these, diorites are usually of greater thickness and length. Effect of fracturing. Fracturing is a phenomenon observed in all kinds of rocks everywhere. Whatever may be the cause of fracturing, it represents a reduction in cohesion or compactness of the rock. Influence of modern variety of rock types and dam sites. Beds of formation which are thick, compact, uniform in texture, composition, etc., and without any structural defects are very desirable at the dam site because they will be strong and will have uniform competence throughout. Exactly for the opposite reason, thin beds are undesirable at the dam sites. Leakage below dam. Leakage below dam takes place generally due to weak planes or zones occurring at dam site. Leakage may also occur below the dam if the underlying rocks are cavernous limestones. As already pointed out, under intrusion at dam site, dikes of dolerite or basalt cutting across dam assignments may also cause leakage. Effect of acidic geological structure. For the stability of dam, the occurrence of favorable geological structure is very important requirement. Under structural geology, we have learned that though rocks bear certain inherent or original physical properties such as length, porosity, and permeability, such characters get modified either advantageously or disadvantageously when geological structures occur in these rocks. To analyze the bearing of geological structures on country rocks in landing a site suitable or unsuitable for dam location, it would be proper to know about the forces that shall be acting there after construction of dam. After the construction of a dam being heavy construction, its loads acts vertically downward on the underlying strata. Further, as a consequence of accumulation of water in the adjacent reservoir in the upstream side, a lateral thrust of significant magnitude develops on the dam. The various geological structures that are likely to occur may be highly complex in nature, but to suit our purposes, that is to appreciate the importance of geological structure from the civil engineering point of view, the following situation are described below. First, case of undisturbed strata, that is strata or beds which are horizontal. Second, case where the axis of dam lies parallel to the strike direction of strata, that is where beds lie perpendicular to the length of the valley. Strata which are faulted, strata which occur as simply tilted or inclined. Of course, the nature of inclination may be upstream side gentle, vertical, downstream side steep. Case of undisturbed, that is horizontal strata, this geological situation is good at dam site because the load of dam acts perpendicular to the bedding planes, which means that the beds are in advantageous position of the pier the load with full competence. The stability of dam, thus the possible uplift pressure which is dangerous. The suitability of the dam is fatally reduced. This is weight of the dam. This is reservoir R. Then this is the condition. This is the condition. These are beds. A gravitational dam over horizontal beds. Cases where beds lie perpendicular to the length of the valley. A. Tilted beds. 1. Beds with 10 degree to 30. Second क्या है? What is second? Cases where beds lie perpendicular to the length of the valley. A. Tilted beds. 1. Beds with 10 to 30 degree inclination in the upstream direction. That is the beds with gentle upstream dip. Such a situation is ideal and much better than the previous one, and this is a typical example where the occurrence of geological structure brings an advantage to the associated rocks of a given site. This is so because the resultant force, which is more important and relevant than the weight of dam, acts more or less perpendicular to the bedding planes which are dipping in the upstream side. Hence, the rocks are best positioned to take the load effectively. Weight of the dam, this is thrust, this is resultant force, this is reservoir. Dam over gently inclined beds in the upstream direction. By the virtue of the prevailing upstream dip, any prelocated water of the reservoir directed by the bedding planes of the upstream side, that is towards the reservoir side only, that is there is no scope of leakage of water below the dam towards the downstream side. Beds with the step upstream dip, such situation is not bad but not so advantageous, so that the previous solution for the obvious reasons, that is in this case there will be no outlet pressure on the dam and no leakage of water from the reservoir, but due to the steep dip and bedding planes are not perpendicular to the resultant force, this means that rocks will not be competent as in the previous case to withstand the loads. Beds with 10 degree to 30 degree inclination towards the downstream side, that is beds with gentle downstream dip. Such a case is very undesirable and not be considered as typical example of illustrate how a geological structure can create harmful or adverse condition for the dam location. This is so because in such a structure the resultant force and bedding planes are in same direction, which means that positioning of the beds is disadvantageous and they are less competent to withstand force prevailing at a dam site. This is reservoir. This is clay bed. These are the arrows. If a clay formation occurs exposed in such cases due to topographical conditions on the upstream side and downstream side, this shall be worst situation because that is clay formation shall act as slippery base among rocks which already have a disadvantageous position. For this reason, a gentle downstream dip is harmful to the safety and suitability of the dam. चलते हैं beds and the steep downstream dip. For the obvious reasons, this situation has all disadvantages of the previous case. Further, here the resultant force and bedding planes are nearly parallel, which means that the beds will be even less competent. The Bhakra Dam on Saltoj River lies on such an undesirable site of sandstones and clay beds, shales of which exhibit a downstream slope of order of 55 degree to 80 degree. But to ensure safety, suitable measures have been taken. Vertical beds. In nature, the occurrence of perfectly vertical beds is rather uncommon because when undisturbed or uplifted, the strata will be normal, have some inclination or the other. This is reservoir. These are the arrows. These are the arrows. This is reservoir. These are the arrows. This is vertical beds. Dams of vertical beds. This is dams of steeply inclined beds in downstream sites. Beds which are folded. Folding of beds which occurs on relatively large scale is generally because dangerous than faulting unless the folds are of complex nature. A fold consists of two limbs which can be considered as simple homocline direct tilted beds. This is dam of folded beds. This is occurrence of fold is advantageous is equal to similar to case of upstream dipping of beds. This is occurrence of fold is disadvantageous is equal to similar to case of downstream. This is reservoir. These are the arrows. However, it should be borne in mind that unlike a simply tilted strata, the folded rocks are not only understained but so physically fractured along the crust. C. Which are faulted. Occurrence of faulting irrespective of its attitude, that is the strike and dip right right at the dam side is most undesirable. If the faults are active, under no circumstances can dam correction be taken up there. Thus, location of dam on the fault zone is undesirable for different reasons. However, if the need arises and if known tectonic history of the faulted region indicates that it has become stable and has no possible reoccurrence of faulting, that is, if faults are considered to be inactive, then sites associated with such faults can be considered dam sites after necessary treatment. Further, among such sites, if the faults occur in the downstream side, they will not be much harmful directly, irrespective of their attitude. It is necessary to recollect in this context that recent studies have pointed out the fact that the inactive faults associated with dams get reactivated when the reservoirs get gradually filled with water on completion of dam, that is reservoir induced seismicity. The Koyna earthquake has already been quoted as an example of such an outcome. D. Beds with Hava joints. Among the different geological structure, joints and cracks are the most common and are found to occur in all kinds of rocks almost everywhere. Obviously, as they represent clear-cut openings and gaps of different magnitude, they contribute to physical weakness of the rock and also to the porosity and permeability. Beds which are parallel to the length of the valley. Therefore, as far for the beds with Hava joints, therefore, as far as the effects of joints over dam sides are concerned, they will be similar to the effects attitudes of bedding planes which have already been discussed. Beds which are parallel to the length of the valley. This is in the case where the dam is aligned across the strike, that is in the dip direction of the beds. In such a situation, beds will be dipping in the direction of the surface slope on one flank, and therefore there will be danger of slipping of rocks along the bedding or that flank, that is the side of the river valley. The St. Francis Dam, an example of dam failure, was aligned along the dip of foundation rocks, and in the left abutment the foliation of schist was dipping in the direction of slope of one valley sides. This is plan along the valley. This is beds, this is dam, this is valley side, this is valley side, this is the direction. This is across the valley. This is dam, this is beds, this is valley with possible slips or rocks. Secondly, in such a situation, that is when beds lie parallel to the length of the valley, the water from the reservoir may find an adequate chance to percolate below the dam along the trend of bedding planes and porous formation and leak out in the downstream side, which is undesirable. Thirdly, in such a case, thus for different reasons, strike valleys are unfavorable for construction of dams.